I'm Deb Antonick, and welcome to my first sneak peek at a new column that I'm doing for the Pixelated palette. And what we're going to be doing is kind of stepping outside of our box a little bit. There's a lot of really wonderful new products available on the market that are designed not only for the decorative painter, but we've been branching into mixed media and the do-it-yourself network, the DIY. And so what I want to do is we're going to start playing with a lot of what we already have, but we're going to start incorporating some of the newer products just to show you how they can be used, how we can incorporate them into what we like to paint. And some of the projects, like this one that I'm going to do for you today, is just going to be a fun little bit of door hanger winter sign, and we're going to do it all with the DecoArt chalky finish paint and a brayer and a brush and a stencil brush. And I'm going to show you how we can make it kind of fun and unique, dress it up a little bit so it's not just a flat stencil. So we're going to get started, and what we're going to use today is we are going to, and you have to ignore this piece. This was a sort of something that I've been playing with just to see the look that I was going to get. So we're actually going to recreate this. So we're going to use the DecoArt chalk finish paint. We're going to start with Timeless. And we're going to use a little bit of this new Restore, which I really like. And another thing you can find is you can actually get them in the 2-ounce bottles, and I find these at my dollar store. So it's not that the stuff is overly expensive or hard to find. A lot of the dollar stores are carrying it. There's not a full range of product of colors in the 2-ounce, but there's certainly enough for us to get going and play with. And we're going to add a little bit of Whisper and of course Everlasting, and then just for fun, because we don't want to be really bored, we're going to use a little Treasure for our lettering. And let's see, then we're going to use some Carbon Black, and you might find a few other things as the project progresses. We're going to start with those colors, and then we are also going to use this awesome stencil. This is from Creative Arts Lifestyle, Patricia Rollinson, and we are going to use, get this wet, it's wet right now, brayer, and of course to move paint around, my favorite Eye of the Tiger brushes from Dynasty brush. These things are like $4. They wash like rags. They are, I find that other than the new blue ice brushes that we are using, and these are the blue ice here, that are designed for your do-it-yourself projects. These are awesome for the chalk finish paint, but I find for my little projects and getting the paint around, I like these Eye of the Tiger. So I'm going to start off with, you don't need to seal the wood. This is just an MDF. This is, I believe Lori Speltz has used it from, I think I got it from Viking Woodcrafts. But anyway, this is a fun little piece, makes a great little sign. We're not going to do a full-blown snowman, but we're going to have a lot of fun with them, and we're going to create sort of a rustic board look and put a sign on them, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So to start with my handy dandy brush, is I'm going to do a quick coat of the Timeless. And what I like about this brush is I don't need to use a lot of paint. And we're going to just give them a quick coat. And it's just a thin coat, and you can see with this brush, it just smooths it around. It's like buttering a cake. We're doing a butter a cake today. And it doesn't go on super thick, but it does allow you to almost get one coat. The paint itself is self-leveling for the most part. If you do really heavy in any places and you let it dry, it'll actually crack a little bit, which is kind of fun. Not necessarily the look that you always want, but it does create that. So we don't need to seal the wood, but you will need to sand it a little bit. I find that because it's still a water-based product, it will raise the grain ever so slightly. And see how smooth that goes on? Isn't that gorgeous? And we're not even worried, you know, this is basically your seal coat, because I don't want to have any of the actual bare wood showing through. So this is what I did the first time around. Actually, I did it in reverse, and I didn't like it. It was just a little bit too dark. And if you find sometimes this paint does thicken, you can actually just thin it out with just a little bit of water. Not too much, but just enough to, you know, give it back to a nice consistency for painting. And see how that spreads? It's going on so nice with this brush. What we do find happens sometimes if we use our regular paint brushes, the paint will pull off. We don't want the paint to pull off. We want it to spread. We want it to stay where we put it, but we want to spread it around. So with this new little column that I'm going to do, we're going to be doing not always a busy project, but I'm going to be showing you a lot of the newer products, a lot of the fun different products, and just how we can incorporate them into our everyday project without having to spend tons and tons of money, or how we can substitute. Even using them doesn't mean that you have to go out and buy every color. Quite often we can use what we already have. So of course, don't forget the sides. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to let that dry for a minute. Okay, so it's dry. So what I'm going to do is, it does raise the grain a little bit, so I'm just going to take out one of my little sanding sponges and I'm just going to give it a quick sand. Nothing fancy, just enough to take the roughness away. So now it's smooth. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to take a palette knife. Unless you have the little 2-ounce bottles, then you can just pour. But we're going to put some little drops onto the wood. A little bit of the Restore and a little bit of the Timeless that we used to start with. Let's see, we'll start with a little bit of Restore. So I'm just going to go and just pop some little bits. Not a lot, just enough to get some color down. And I'm going to wipe off the palette knife and do the same, because I want it to blend a little bit. I don't want it to be stuck, being just all one color. Okay, so not a lot, just a little bit, just to get started, and then what we can do afterwards is I'll start pulling it off of my palette. Alright, don't forget to cover these up. And we get out the brayer. This is the fun part. This is the part that I actually really enjoy. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go back and forth. And I'm going back and forth this way because I've got my grooves in here and I want it to look like my boards run sideways like that. So I'm just going to go back and forth just to get the paint spread around. And then I'm going to go up and down a little bit just to kind of move the paint. So what this will do is it'll give you an idea now. It's got basically the gist of the paint that we're going to use. Okay. So now what I want to do is I've got enough brown, so I want to start bringing in the lighter colors. And by doing the lighter colors is I'm going to take the paint off of my palette. Take a little bit of, then go onto my palette. I'm going to take a little bit of the original color right there. That's the Timeless. Then I'm going to actually put my brayer in there and just kind of pull a little bit out, work it onto my brayer like so. And that way it's just going to grab in smaller bits. And just go over a couple of times in the direction of the wood. I like the way it's now starting to look like old barn wood, and that I just love that look. Too much because we don't want to change the color completely. You can do a little bit here and there just to change up direction. Wood isn't always going in the same direction. Okay. So then I'm going to take Whisper And I just happen to have it in a 2-ounce, but if you didn't have the little 2-ounce bottles, you can just do the same. Pull it with your palette knife, put a little bit on the palette. And I'm not going to clean my brayer because I don't need to. If you want to clean your brayer, you just take a piece of paper towel, and that's my Subway wrapper from last night. So again, just going to load it onto the palette paper so that we get a little bit on our brayer. Just do the same, back and forth. See how cool that is? Because I don't really want a painted background as I would for, you know, one of my designs. I'm actually trying to create an old barnwood. I want this to look like one of those old primitive barnwood signs that we might buy at a craft market or something. A little bit more. You just keep playing with it until you like the color. Like if you want it whiter and brighter, you just keep going. There's no right or wrong in how this is going to look. I just thought really wanted to have some fun and go outside of our common, you know, our little happy box that we like to stay in. I think we've lost a lot of our crafting and playing. And it is fun. I miss it. Oh yeah, I like the way this is starting to come. Right. Now I'm going to do the same with some Whisper, some of the Everlasting. It's the white. And again, I do have it in a 2-ounce. I love the 2-ounce bottles. So much easier to work with for small projects like I like to do. The same thing, we're going to load it in our paint. Oh yeah. Like that. And don't even think about it, just slap it down there. It's just layers of old paint, you know. A bit more. I find I'm doing a lot of these brayer backgrounds. I've never liked just plain flat backgrounds anyway. I like them to have a little texture and a little interest to them. So I play around with different things. So, you know, I've been doing them. And I figured, you know, now's a good time to start showing how I do them. And I'm just going to make sure that I've got everything flat. Call that done. Alright. I'm going to zoom in, let you see how it looks, how there's texture. So that's the look you're starting to get. You should have it look like it's actually an old textured piece of wood. So really quite cool. So we're going to let that dry. Pan back out. Oops, don't go that way. So come back out. And what we're going to do is we're going to let this dry, and then we're going to put the stencil on. If we put the stencil on while it's still wet, it does tend to lift a little bit of it off. So let it dry for a few minutes. So it's dried, and one of my favorite things to always have is baby wipes. It's kind of a new thing. It started with seeing people using it a lot in mixed media, but I found that they are extremely handy to not only clean your little workspace, and you know, if you've got stuff on your palette you want to take off, they're just like you can wipe things. So I liked having them. Look at that. So anyway, one of the things I wanted to share with you was, did you know that you can actually float color with chalky finish paint? So we're going to do that today to show you a little bit about that. Basically, you know, chalky finish paint is, as though it was designed for the DIY, it actually has a lot more flexibility to be used in several other aspects of your painting. So I've got a little 2-ounce bottle of the Restore, which was the same color that I used, the darker brown. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shade around the outside, just, you know, to show you that it kind of does bring it a little bit to life. And I'm going to use my faux squirrel. I'm a black gold user when I do my decorative painting, but when I do stuff on the chalk finish paint, or, you know, and I like to use the media line, I like a softer brush. So I'm going to use my faux squirrel angle shader. And you know, it all works basically the same way. I think I got bad shadows. Hang on a sec. I do. Ah, there we go. Sun's gone. Sorry. So, yeah, so you can shade. And I'm just going to quickly just go around the outside a little bit, just to enhance, create a little bit more interest in the piece. It's one thing just to kind of slap some paint on and stencil, but I like to add a little something something to it. Just make it pop a little bit. It doesn't even need to be perfect. And then of course I pull my floats towards me, so we're going to turn it around and work this way. Yeah, I hope you're enjoying trying something new. This is something new that we're going to try this year. And if there's something that you want to see, you know, a product that you want to see how it's used, or something new that excites you and you're just not quite too sure how, you know, feel free to let me know. The email, my email and everything is with, you know, with the instructions, supply list and stuff in the magazine. Because, you know, I'm game to try anything. If I don't know how it works, I'm going to figure out how it works. So then what I'm going to do, see, I just kind of added a little bit of something something to it. He's not actually supposed to have a face. He's just actually going to be a sign. But I'm going to put a little bit of snow on the bottom. I'm going to freehand it, just because that's what I'm going to do. But I'm just going to float it in. I just want to have a little bit of snow down the bottom. So I'm just going to do a little float where I want my snow to be, along the top. Just a little float. Then I'm going to go to my Whisper, and I'm going to base coat the snow. You realize we're only going to use a couple of brushes in this whole project. So I'm just going to base coat. Just to get that on there. I just wanted to add a little something to it, instead of it just being a sign. Who knows what we'll do? And you know, I'm designing this as I go. I started with a basic idea. We'll just go see where it goes. You know, the only plans that I had for this was basic gist of the brayer, background, and the snow and the stencil. That was it. So there, got a little bit of background on there. And just what I'm going to show you, this particular wood surface is, you know, one that you have to order. It's cut for you and everything. But I found these fun little guys, and I'm creating the same thing. I'm going to throw them in my neighbor's shop. These at the dollar store. They were like, I don't know, $2 or $3. So I'm recreating the same idea on, you know, little dollar store surfaces. They're going to have a different stencil, but there will be pictures of these. We're going to kind of go along. I'm working on these ones in the background, but I'll have them finished at the end if you can find them. Dollarama, I think. But, you know, my Canadian dollar stores, you guys always have way better stuff in the U.S. if you're in the U.S. And if you're in Canada, then probably Dollarama. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to get my stencil out, and we're going to do it in this awesome blue. Treasure, I think. Beautiful color. And we're going to put my stencil on. The snow I'm going to finish. I just wanted it placed in there. So we're going to get this out. And I could do a little stenciling. So what I want to do is I want the stencil to sit down a little bit in the snow. But I'm also going to... There's no place like home. because he just fits on here the way I had done it. And I may have to move it around a little bit. Pull it down. Needs to be on there. Don't want it to be off. A little bit higher. It's just gonna fit. Sweet. I'm gonna make sure it's straight. And I don't want it sitting like so it's gonna fall off the edge. And I may move my snow letters a little closer together. And if you don't have the stencil, you can just use a letter stencil. You can pick those up just about anywhere. Okay, so I think that's, you know, I can see by the bottom that it's pretty much straight. And I look at my corners to see where it's lining up, and my snow is going to fit just right in here. And then if you want, you know, if you're not comfortable, you're worried about it moving around, I'm just going to throw a piece of tape up there, painter's tape, just to help secure it, because I don't know about you, but I don't like my stencils to move around on me. And I've gone a little bit into the snow just for the reason that I want to have my home sitting in the snow. So there. So I've done that. So what we're going to do is we're going to stencil. And I've got these awesome stencil brushes from Dynasty. It's just a nice flat, for a flat surface, I like these ones. For if you're going to do texture, you'll see me use a lot. My big one's dirty, but you see me use a lot of these other ones, the Tracy Moreau ones with the little end. These are great for texture. So if you have these in your painting bin, I'm not too sure why, they're for texture. It just helps to get in, or you know, helps to get into the little spaces, and especially if you've got like tiny cutouts like snowflakes or little tiny details, these also help to get into those little tiny spots. But this is all big, so we're just going to go right in. There's no place like home. And we're going to stencil. And stenciling, we're not going to pounce. We're actually going to dry rub. Can you see that? Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to work the paint into my brush. There's not a lot of paint on there. I'm just going to tap it on a dry piece of paper towel, just because, you know, in case there's a big glob on there. Then I'm going to stencil. And I'm going to do it in a circular motion. Don't go the same way all the time. You want to kind of keep changing directions. And the reason for that is you don't want the paint to kind of accumulate in your corners, get little ridges and stuff. Less is better. You know, you're better off to, you know, reload several times than to have one great big gob. See, I'm just kind of dry rubbing. And this will actually give you, surprisingly, a very, very, very crisp edge. Very nice. Reload as necessary. Getting the big letters we're going to do. And then we're going to shade the letters, and we're going to kind of bring them to life after. It's a pretty color. And I always start off light, like with very little pressure, and I'll build up my pressure as I go. You can pounce. You can use, if you have like pouncing stencil brushes, you can. They tend to push, like the harder brushes, tend to push the paint underneath the stencil. And if you've ever had the opportunity to like, be at one of the trade shows where, you know, either Tracy or myself has been demoing these stencil brushes, you actually get to see firsthand how they make a big difference on how your stenciled piece turns out. Your stencil shouldn't look like it's sitting on top of everything. Should look like it's sort of part of the actual project. I'm going to stencil over the snow because I haven't decided yet what part of the home is going to sit below the snow and what part's going to sit above the snow. We can fix that later. A little bit more pink. I'm not putting a lot of pressure, I'm basically just skimming the surface. There. How cool is that? So we're going to let that dry. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to shade my letters, and I'm going to do it with DecoArt Americana's Prussian Blue, and we're just going to shade the letters and then we'll highlight. I'm going to use my favorite little 3/8 angular shader, my black gold favorite brush. We're just going to shade the left hand side basically of the letters. Bring out your mop when you need it. There. Okay, so now we're going to highlight and with Spa Blue, and we're going to take our trusty little 3/8 angular shader, my choice, and we're going to turn our piece upside down because all my flows now are going to be pulled towards me again. And the same as before, which means I'm going to speed up the camera. There. Turn them back around where he belongs. Alright. So next what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little nose on them. And the nose I've actually cut out of burlap. So little pieces of burlap that I had kicking around. So the nose is actually going to be a mixture of DecoArt Decapage and persimmon. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix these together on my palette, just like a 1-to-1 mix. A little drop of Decapage and a little drop, preferably the matte Decapage, you just don't want it shiny. And like a 1-to-1 mix, and I'm just going to take my little palette, my little palette knife, and I'm just going to mix the two together. The reason I'm just kind of like making a paste because this is kind of like floppy and it's going to fade, you know, it's going to fray. So I'm going to stick it on there, and I'm going to use my palette and just give it a coat. I'm not going to worry about the little frayed edges right now because they'll get cleaned up as we go. There. So just going to do that. Then I'm going to set it aside and let it dry. Stick it so it, as long as the back side doesn't have the decoupage on it, it should be fine. And then, through the wonderful magic of the fact that I already did one last night, we're going to stick it on, same thing. We're going to take them on here, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to use decoupage. I'm just going to kind of plop him in here because he's just a face on the pattern. Then, with my decoupage, we're going to stick it down. Take an old brush, take my decoupage. I'm just going to brush it all over on a fair bit. Pop the little nose down and put decoupage over it. We're going to stick them down. It's going to take a little while to stick. It'll take a little while. Actually put some on the back too, I think, just to make sure it does stick. The decoupage is actually it's an adhesive anyway, so there. Stick them down. If you want to use, glue, you can use glue. I just, decoupage works. You have a little patience. You wait for it to dry. It's not going to go anywhere. Here. Just put a little pressure on it, stick it down, and let it dry. There. I just thought it would be kind of fun. We're sticking with a whole rustic theme with this guy. So I'll let that dry and see what we're going to do next. Okay, so now he's all stuck there and he's dried. So I'm just going to give it a float with the Restore, the same brown that we had done with our rest of our shading. Just give it a quick little float around the nose. It's so close to being done. So just going to come around, just to add a little depth. Yeah, very simple. And then with the little burnt sienna, I want to shade the nose because I don't like anything that's sort of half done. Just because it's all stenciled doesn't mean we can't add shading and a few other little dimensions to it. A little burnt sienna. Okay. Not a lot, just a little bit. Okay, so we've got them floated. Now what we're going to do is we're going to add some little eyeballs. And I wanted to use buttons. I wanted to keep them pretty plain and simple. I didn't want to do a lot of painting on them. So I wanted to have little teeny tiny, where'd it go? Little teeny tiny beady eyes because, my snowman don't have really big eyes all the time. So I'm going to use little tiny beady. Just kind of, I didn't want the focus to be on the eyes. So I'm going to put them on with the DecoPage. Just going to use the end of my brush. This is an option too. I mean, you can use the bigger eyes if you want. It's all in the look that you want. See, he can have bigger eyes. He's kind of fun with bigger eyes, but I kind of wanted to have like littler eyes. If it gets windy and snowy, he needs to be able to see. So I'm going to put my glue the end of my brush. Just pop that down there. Another little beady eye down here. Still move it around while it's still wet if you want to raise them. There. She's got beady little eyes. So now we're going to have some fun. So another thing that you may or may not have realized is that you can actually float, or not only float, but you can actually stamp with chalk finish paint as well. So I'm going to use, I'm going to add some snowflakes. And this is a stamp from Stampendous. They're pretty detailed little snowflakes. There's actually a really big one too, which I really like. The big guy here. So we're going to use these, and I'm going to show you how I do them. You can either use a makeup sponge, which works really well, or my personal favorite are these little stamping, inking things from the Tim Holtz collection. And the little foam pads that they come with. These things are absolutely just awesome. So we're going to do some stamping. And at the same time too, is we're also going to clean up the snow on the bottom since we're going to have the white out. So we're just going to do a little bit of floating along the bottom. Just one more float first, just to finish the bottom off. And then we're going to get out all our white. And I just wanted to come along the bottom, just to dirty up the bottom a little bit with a float. Because we're not going to do a lot with the snow. It's just kind of a background. Oops, it was not in the camera. And then if you want, you can touch up a little bit, like under where the letters are. Because they are sitting in the snow a little bit maybe. Just to enhance it a little bit. Not much. Okay, so now we're going to get our white. Our chalk finish white, everlasting it's called. Beautiful, nice white color. And we're going to do some stamping. Let's see. Our little Tim Holtz doodad here. And our white. I'm going to go, so we're going to actually get quite a bit of paint on here. Quite a bit. Because we want this to have quite a bit of paint on it. There. So there's a fair bit. So we're going to stick it on a little plastic, the little acrylic handle, flat thing. And I'm just going to pounce it on. And find a spot and just plunk it down. Don't worry, they don't have to be totally perfect. They're just, subtle. They're not, I like these little snowflakes because they're not screaming at you. They're just subtle. They're very lacy and pretty. You can use any snowflake that you happen to have. Take some off the edge a little bit. Pretty. And change it out. I'm going to mix and match the snowflakes between the cute little lacy one and this fun little sort of less lacy. You can draw on your snowflakes too if that's what you want to do. I'm just trying to show you there's a lot of different things to do with the chalk finish paints. You're not limited. You can pretty much do anything with it. Float, stamp, paint, detail work, you name it. We can do it. Let's see, should we add some big ones? I think so. Get a big guy. Good call for the big one. Yay! So awesome. It's so much fun, just to try different things and without having to actually go all out into the whole mixed media, stamping, scrapbooking. We can just bring some of those little elements into our everyday painting And just add a little something something, but not take away from our passion of, you know, the painting that we like to do. It's just lacy, so pretty. I like that. I think I'm going to add a little tiny one here and a little tiny one up there. Go back to my first guy. Yeah, second guy. I like that one. A little bit more paint. You want to wash these quite quickly too, because the chalk finish paint does tend to dry and be quite permanent, especially on the stencils too. There. Calling it done. All right, and let's see. Oh, he's got to have some snow and glitter. What else should we do? Oh, I know what we'll do. Oh, I know what we'll do. You can never leave things alone. Snowflake stencils. I just find one of my snowflake stencils. This just happens to be one of Creative Arts Lifestyle from Patricia Rollinson. And this we're going to do something a little bit different here too. We are going to add glitter because everything has to have glitter. So we're going to have Glamour Dust, or nope, we're going to use Diamond Dust Glass Glitter. So get some diamond, or you can use Glamour Dust if you have it. And we are also going to go back into our decoupage. And let's see, stencil brush. And we're just going to have a little bit of fun. See, nothing is as it's supposed to be. We'll do this. This basically is a glue. That's on there. Ooh, pretty. Oh, frosty flakes in there. Stick one down here. This one should be good. It's got a lot of stuff going on right there. Glitter. And don't be afraid, use quite a bit. Glamour Dust would work really good too. I just didn't want that full glitter. Take a little pinch. You see how we're getting just a little shimmer there? I don't know if you can see it or not. It's there. Just a little shimmer. A couple more, I think. Maybe one that's sort of, you don't have to be like totally on the page either. Partly off is kind of fun. I don't want to use a snowflake with too much detail in it. That's why I'm using the big ones to get, so that I can actually get the glitter to stick. And what I'll do with this when it's totally finished is I'll spray varnish it. That way I don't worry about brushing off any of my glitter and I know it's there. Something here. There. You'll never know if it's not perfect. Here, up here. Partway off the face. I'm thinking. So, just for a little bit on the face. Here. And then one thing I want to do is I want to add a little bit. I'll just use this. A little frost to his nose. Maybe a little to the eyes. And there. We're done. So I hope you had as much fun as I did. And happy painting.